Welcome back to Buschy and Bobo, episode 15. Today we have the original six draft. Now, this was an idea that me and Bobo had where we kind of thought, you know what? There's a lot of really good players in the league. There's 32 teams. It gets watered down. The talent gets watered down, especially with Seattle coming in. So we thought, what would the teams look like? The original six. You know them, Bobo?
Yeah, because they're right in front of me, but I knew them
Yeah.
already.
Okay, cool. New York, Detroit,
Yeah,
Montreal,
Chicago. Yeah,
Boston, and some other team. So, Toronto.
some other team
So anyway,
in Seattle.
um, yeah, right. So we decided let's do a draft. I think everybody knows by now that me and Bobo love the draft. We love trades. We love free agency. So it's kind of a fantasy draft for us, but we put a lot of thought into it, and like a lot of stats. And it's interesting to see some of the rosters, how good they are, where players actually went who didn't get drafted. So that might be different YouTube podcast type stuff. What we are doing today is strictly doing the draft results, and we're going to go through now. We pre-drafted this,
And it
so
took hours.
it
Actually, it
took
didn't take as long as I thought it was going to take. Like with these six teams, there's no bad team.
no.
It's but like I said, there was a lot of thought into it, and it. I thought it was going to go longer, but it still took what 2.5, 3 hours.
It was fun,
Oh, absolutely.
but yeah, it took a while. So there was no way we were going to do that live. That was our original plan, was to do this live.
But then
What
we
a
would have had
joke
like a
that would have been.
7 hour
Yeah,
episode.
not a chance. So we randomized the draft order. Not that it really mattered because Bobo's picking for three teams. I'm picking for three teams. So my three teams are the Rangers, the Red Wings, and the Canadiens. Bobo's got the Maple Leafs, the Bruins, and the Blackhawks. So we randomized it. So it's actually a snake draft to just keep it nice and easy. I mean, because we're starting off, basically starting a new league, we'll say. And Bobo won the first pick.
Yeah.
So he's
Then it was
picking
who do I want to
first.
have pick
Yeah.
it first,
So,
right? So
right. So it doesn't really matter. It's just the team names for the sake of the team names. So, what we're going to do is we're going to pull up our little Excel sheet. You're going to notice that a lot of the players are blacked out. You're not going to see who they are. We'll reveal them as we go. And, there might be some that are really obvious. Some we might want to explain. So we'll do that as we go. So here you can actually see
there we
what
go.
our draft board looks like. So I might actually make this slightly bigger. There we go.
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
So
So it actually kind of looks nice. I really, really like the way that this looked. It took a while because I
put
had to
some time into it,
put all the logos in like individually. Like it was a pain in the ass.
but it looks
So
nice.
yeah, I mean, I try. But yeah, so we're actually in our NHL draft rooms right now, right? So
Uh,
mine, I have a state of the art multi-million dollar complex. You can see everything behind me. That's all state of the art. Bobo is
is
actually
actually in the friendly confines of Bushy's laundry room.
he's in the laundry room right now, and we're not even joking. He's in there. Looks pretty good though. I mean, it's industrial. I mean, I have a lot of laundry. So let's get back into the draft room.
Yeah, let me just get right back in the draft room here. There we go.
And we're gonna get right into it. Again, we're not gonna reveal exactly like what the rosters look like until the end of the draft, but we're definitely gonna follow along and tell you kind of what the teams are looking like as it goes. So, with that being said, Bobo, you have the honors. The Chicago Blackhawks are on the clock.
Yeah, so getting the first overall pick, obviously it's going to be it's you got billions of names, well, thousands of names to choose from, but it was pretty obvious the Chicago Blackhawks take from the Edmonton Oilers center Connor McDavid. Just easy pick for me to go with there. Uh, maybe two guys that you could two or three guys you could debate going first, but when it came down to it, McDavid was the guy. So with that being said, the Red Wings, you're up on the clock.
Now, I disagree with you. I think that McDavid is a clear number one, and there's literally no one else you could have picked. So I agree with the pick. Moving on with the second overall pick, the Detroit Red Wings select from the Colorado Avalanche center Nathan MacKinnon. So I went with Nathan MacKinnon. This is where I think things open up a little bit. I think you have probably any player in the first round could have went second. I think Nathan MacKinnon is close to Connor. I think he's closer to Connor McDavid than the rest of the players are to Nathan MacKinnon, and that's why I picked him second overall. I think he would be just a stud for any team, honestly. So, Boston Bruins on the clock.
Yeah, so I like that McKinnon pick at number 2. Like I said, there's that was the other guy who was obviously I was debating on, but McDavid is for me it was the easy choice. Coming in at 3, like Buschy said, a bunch of these guys that are in the first round, early second round, could easily been in this like top round, or these at least top 3, or not from 3 is an easy pick here. Could have won in this spot where Boston's at now. So with the 3rd overall pick, enough rambling. The Boston Bruins took from the Edmonton Oilers, Leo Draisaitl. Said that was a pretty easy choice there for me. Couple other guys, like I said, could have went up there, but I like the power for. I feel like he fits the Boston mold. So with that, New York is up.
So this might be a little bit off the board. I think Draisaitl is a top 3. I looked at him for the Red Wings pick too. Either way, you can't go wrong. This is where I think it gets a little bit interesting, in my opinion, because I didn't think I was going to pick this guy this early, but with the 4th pick, the New York Rangers select from the Tampa Bay Lightning goaltender Andrei Vasilevsky. I think having the best goalie in the league, obviously, really strong place to build from. And with all the players, all the forwards, all the defensemen, looking at the cream of the crop, you can get forwards and defensemen like crazy. Goaltenders are at a premium. Number 5th overall pick, Toronto is on the clock.
So with that Vasilevsky pick that you took there, it's like you said, you're gonna get offensive firepower. Goalies are harder. Vasilevsky was a guy I was looking at taking in the 2nd round for any of my teams, but once you take him, like he's the best goalie in the league. So I don't think it's necessarily a reach. I think especially like I said, goalies are at a premium, so might as well grab one high. With the 5th overall pick, the Toronto Maple Leafs take from the Toronto Maple Leafs, Austin Matthews. I think he's one of the top centers in the league, and he's you know what, might as well try to keep one guy at least in one superstar in his team in his original 6 teams. One thing I'm not going to say before I pass before Toronto gets off this pick here is look how Buschy's such a homer for the Wings that he put the 2 Canadian teams last. Just throwing that out there. And with that being said, the Montreal Canadiens are on the clock.
Okay, Detroit's my number 1 team. I don't like Toronto or Montreal, and I'm indifferent to the Rangers, and they just try to get everybody. So I'm like, I can draft anybody to the Rangers, and it'll seem like, I could draft Bobby Holik, and people will be like, yeah, that's probably a Rangers pick, right? I like the Matthews pick. You nailed it. So now 2 back-to-back picks here. So I'll just say both of them. So with the 6th overall pick, you're going to see a theme here. The Montreal Canadiens select from the Tampa Bay Lightning defenseman Victor Hedman. In my opinion, best defenseman in the league. He should have won the Norris Trophy again. The guy plays like freaking 30 minutes a night. He's the best defenseman in the league, bar none. So I went with Victor Hedman. With the 7th overall pick, also from the Tampa Bay Lightning, right winger Nikita Kucherov. You immediately get at least 40 goals from Nikita Kucherov. So he's going to be on the top line, and I'll probably pair him with a really good centerman. That's how it goes. So moving on, Toronto Maple Leafs with the 8th pick in the 2nd round.
Thank you. So pretty much he's taking everyone from Tampa and just moving them to Montreal.
If you can't beat them, join them. Or join them, beat them, take them. I don't know.
Easy, LeBron. Anyways, with the 8th overall pick, the Toronto Maple Leafs, they went with Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane obviously has that American connection there with Austin Matthews. Tons of scoring up here for Toronto. So it's still very productive, and it's going to help that Leafs team.
So right now, I like that because Matthews and Patrick Kane on the top line, that's pretty damn good, right? Ooh. So definitely take that. So moving on, New York Rangers with the 9th overall selection. The New York Rangers select from the Boston Bruins left winger Brad Marchand. I liked Marchand just because he has that grit. He can kind of play in all situations. He's a top line guy. He's a pest. That's a New York guy. I'm going to take him before the Bruins can. And speaking of the Bruins, they're on the clock with number 10.
Yeah, with the 10th pick, the Boston Bruins, we went with a defenseman here, one of the young defensemen, we went with Cale Makar from the Colorado Avalanche. I think he's going to be one of the best defensemen in the league for years to come. Calder winner, right? He beat out Pedersen the one year, 2 years ago or whatever. I think he's gonna have tons of time to grow in Boston there. I don't know how long we were gonna sim this or whatnot, but I think he would be. He's already a top defenseman in Colorado. He's gonna be a top defenseman for years to come. So with that being said, Detroit, you're up.
This was a pick the first time where I kind of was like, God damn you, because I was gonna pick Makar with my next pick. That being said, with him being gone, now you're going to see a note on the side here. The Detroit Red Wings select defenseman from the Washington Capitals, John Carlson. John Carlson is the top scoring defenseman over the past 2 seasons, and he's like 20 points ahead of number 2. I don't know if that's really that shocking, but he's obviously one of the top guys. He doesn't get talked about a lot, but missing out on Makar, I went, you know what? I got to take somebody that's going to probably give me some offense from the back end and play in all situations. That's John Carlson. So number 12 overall, Chicago's on the clock.
You said that Carlson pick, it's nice. It's like you said, top scoring defenseman over the last 2 years. It's not necessarily a sexy name to pick, but it's, you know what, points. Your work is better than a sexy name. So the fact when I took Makar there with Boston, I was happy that he sort of like, damn you, but he ends up getting a stud in Carlson. Chicago with the 12th pick, they went with right winger David Pastrnak. Him and McDavid up there together, ooh, like come on, that's already looking pretty solid for the Blackhawks. And since it's a snake, we also have the 13th. So with this, we went with the defenseman. Another young defenseman here. We went with Quinn Hughes from the Vancouver Canucks. Me as a Canucks fan, I love Hughes already. Like I said in the notes there on the side, 5th in defenseman for points last 2 seasons, and he's young, right? So he's got another similar to Makar, going to be a great defenseman for years to come, and already Vancouver's top guy. So bring him over to Chicago in this, and Detroit, you're up.
So just to describe the stats, the reason I looked at the last 2 years is because obviously both years were kind of shortened. So I kind of looked at it, and it turned out to be about 120 games. So pretty good sample size to look at a player and go, hey, he had a good like year and a half. So that's what I went with for that. And if you went with 3 years, you're going to get some different things just because some of these guys like Hughes and Makar weren't in the league. So they're not going to be up at the top. With the 14th overall pick, the Detroit Red Wings are proud to select from the New York Rangers, Artemi Panarin. We needed some scoring up on the top line. He's going to be playing with Nathan MacKinnon. So when I said I wanted to pair MacKinnon with someone that could score, it's definitely Artemi Panarin. Boston Bruins on the clock.
Yeah, Boston. We're going with the goalie this round, the Boston Bruins. I'm not going to say much on that Panarin pick because, like I said, it's MacKinnon, Panarin, nice. Boston is going with the goalie here, who I think is top 3 goalie in the league, arguably top 2. We went with Connor Hellebuyck, big goalie. He's not the size of Vasilevsky, but I like him in between the pipes. I like what he's done in Winnipeg, so I feel like he could fit in Boston there and be a solid number 1 tendy.
All right, so
New York, you're up on the clock.
The 16th pick, the New York Rangers select from the Colorado Avalanche right winger, Mikko Rantanen. This guy's just getting started, honestly, and he's someone that can score. He's on the right wing, Brad Marchand on the left. We got to fill in a center spot, but I think you can't go wrong with a guy like Rantanen. Toronto's on the clock. We might have ruined this pick.
Yeah, we went with, obviously with the Norris Trophy there, we went with Adam Fox, defenseman. Do I need to say anything else? Montreal, you're up.
I mean, he won the Norris Trophy, so that's pretty damn good, right? So with the 18th overall pick, Montreal selects from the Florida Panthers center Sasha Barkov. I really like Barkov just as he's overall, and I think I was trying to look for a lot of these players that were more two-way players. You can see he averaged a minute 14 on the penalty kill. You don't see a lot of top guys on their team playing on the penalty kill. They're usually power play guys, and then they're third or some second liners, fourth liners play on the PK. I like that Barkov can be in all situations, so that's why I went with Barkov for the Montreal Canadiens. Start off the fourth round with the 19th overall pick. I think this one's a little bit of a steal, but at the same time, it can be looked at as kind of a what are you doing type pick. I picked defenseman from the Nashville Predators, Roman Josi. Like I said, third scoring defenseman the last 2 seasons. I don't know if that was surprising to me, maybe a little bit. But honestly, if you see the way that I'm building my defense, my top pair with Montreal right now is Victor Hedman and Roman Josi. I don't know if you can beat that with any other team right now. I really like that combo. Toronto was on the clock with pick number 20.
Yeah, with number 20, the Toronto Maple Leafs, we're going to round up that top line. So much scoring power, shooting power right now with Matthews and Kane. Fuck it, let's just add some more. The Toronto Maple Leafs are taking left winger Alex Ovechkin. So that top line is Ovechkin, Matthews, and Kane. So many shots on net. How they're going to get the puck, we don't know yet, but we're just going to make it happen. Like you're going to put up easily 60 shots a game. And yeah, so with that being said, the Rangers are on the clock.
Like he might score 70 on that line. So who's gonna pass on the puck? The thing is, though, we're just putting a depth chart together. You want to make an actual line, you probably would put a playmaker up on that top line, put Ovechkin on the second one with some other guy. Like you have so many combinations. So I like the pick, and the fact that he lasted to pick 20 is pretty impressive too. New York Rangers with the 21st pick select from the Tampa Bay Lightning center Braden Point. He's technically, I think, on the second line in Tampa Bay. Did I put anything else in here? No. Guy's impressive. On any other team in the league, in my opinion, he's going to be on the top line. Looking at my first line with the Rangers, I've got Braden Point, Brad Marchand, Mikko Rantanen. I think there's a ton of potential there to just rip it up because you have Point who can score, can play make. Marchand's grit, Rantanen scores. You got a good mix there. So moving on into the pick number 22, Boston Bruins on the clock.
Number 22, the Boston Bruins took from the Boston Bruins, Patrice Bergeron. He's such a Boston player, and obviously, let's see the notes there on the side: 60% in faceoffs and playing the penalty kill. A guy that can play all situations there for you. So, with that said, Detroit, 23rd pick.
60% on faceoffs is just an absurd number. I mean, you're starting with the puck 6 out of 10 times when he's on the ice. That's pretty damn good because the league average is definitely not 60%. That's way at the top. Plus the PK, I love that pick. The Detroit Red Wings, we wanted a starting goalie. Like I said, they're at a premium. I went with this year's Vezina winner from not the Vegas Golden Knights anymore, from the Chicago Blackhawks, Marc-Andre Fleury, which I know that looks like blasphemy with Fleury in the Red Wings uniform. But hey, we need a really good goalie. That's who I'm going with. Chicago is on the clock.
Yeah, so Chicago also decided to go with the goalie this year, as you could tell with the notes with the Vezina finalists, and we went with the goalie who I think said playing in Colorado right now. We went with Philip Grubauer. I think he's
in Seattle, buddy.
Oh yeah, he's in Seattle now. Yeah, played with Colorado the last few years, and just been putting out some pretty good numbers there. So reason he was a Vezina finalist, and he's going to be the main guy here in Chicago. And it's the Snakes, or on the other end here, we went with another center here for the Chicago Blackhawks. We're already trying to fill out with the second line. So with the 25th overall pick, the Blackhawks take Sidney Crosby.
Lasted until round 5.
Round 5. So McDavid on the first line, Crosby on the second line. It's looking pretty good there. Detroit's up with 26.
With the 26th overall pick in round 5, the Detroit Red Wings select defenseman from the Vegas Golden Knights, Shea Theodore. I love Shea Theodore's game. That's one of those things with the expansion draft with Vegas. A lot of teams screwed up. I think Anaheim screwed this up so badly. Just to keep Josh Manson, they said pick Shea Theodore, and then I think they gave up like a first round pick too. I mean, unbelievable. Shea Theodore is a really, really good top defenseman. I have him paired with John Carlson. So I like that top line for the Red Wings. 27th overall pick, Boston is on the clock.
So Boston here, we went with the defenseman as well. We went with Morgan Riley from the Leafs. Sort of maybe it's a bit of a stretch there on taking him. I think there's a couple other guys going back now that maybe I would have taken before, but still a guy that will be able to help out there for the team, and not much more to say on him. So the Rangers are up with 28th pick.
Now, I think we're both looking here at offensive defensemen that aren't really going to be like a defensive stud for you. So the Rangers selected from the Pittsburgh Penguins defenseman Chris Letang. 6th in D-man points over the past 2 seasons. I don't know if that's just him feeding Crosby for, power play goals or whatever. I know I could have looked into the stats a little more than that, but I thought, you know what, Letang, I don't have a defenseman for the Rangers yet. We do have Vasilevsky in net, so he's going to bail you out a little more. So I kind of went more forward heavy at the beginning of the draft. Time to pick a defenseman. Chris Letang is it. Toronto's on the clock.
29th pick, the Leafs. We took defenseman from the New Jersey Devils now, Dougie Hamilton. He's so playing him up there with Fox on that top. So our top defensive line is Fox and Hamilton. Well, at least drafted right now. Going through doing it that way. Still a guy who has some grit to him, and he's going to be an all-around player there with the Leafs. So Montreal, you're going back to back here.
So with the 30th pick, just to round out the 5th round, Montreal Canadiens select. You're gonna love this, Lou. From the Montreal Canadiens, goaltender Carey Price.
Jake Allen.
Jake Allen. Yeah, well, we had to protect them, right? What else is there to say, right? I mean, he's one of the best goalies in the league. He had a bad season this year until he made the playoffs. I feel like with these players in front of him, he would be incredible. And honestly, he might be the top guy behind Vasilevsky, in my opinion. Better than Fleury and probably better than Hellbuck. But I mean, it scared me, just that regular season that he had. But in this hypothetical league, I think it would be really, really nice to have him there. Montreal Canadiens stacking up this defense. We select from the Vegas Golden Knights, Alex Pietrangelo. Again, Yossi, Hedman, Pietrangelo. Yeah, good luck. Toronto's on the clock.
Since goalies are going like a dime a dozen right now, you said you want to try to get someone that's able to take that number 1 spot. And after Montreal took Price at 30, it's sort of hard to say that there's
slim pickings.
Yeah, it's slim. It was very hard. So we're almost going to go with a 1A, 1B here in Toronto. So with our 32nd pick, we went with Darcy Kemper. It said, I know it's sort of slim, like I said, slim pickings, but I think he's still being a number 1 guy in Arizona. Colorado now. Fuck.
Traded for
all these trades and shit.
They lost Grubauer, right? So they had to trade
so they went and got
a lot for him.
But so still played a number 1 role in Arizona. We'll play the number 1 role in Colorado, and you know what? It's going to be a 1A, 1B.
So
Rangers are up.
Yeah. So I was looking at it and going like, you know what? At that point, I would have waited. Just pick, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to get somebody. But again, you're looking at those top 4, like I just said, there's the cream of the crop and then everybody else. And you kind of can't really go wrong. I mean, you can argue you could have picked 10 other goalies, you know what I mean? But it's like, they're all in that same category of like that second tier, right?
Yeah.
So that's why you got to grab one. 33rd overall, the New York Rangers select from the Ottawa Senators defenseman Thomas Chabot. Young defenseman, got into the league early. I was liking his stats. You know, looking at the Rangers defense, I got Letang already. I'm going to put Chabot in there. Again, Vasilevsky's back playing goal. I want to just get some defenseman in there and let it roll. Boston's on the clock.
So Boston here, we went with a guy who could play either wing. We wanted to Mr. Svechnikov. Honestly, I had no clue what because when I made this pick, Buschy was starting to do that. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? So he showed me,
Mr.
and then
Svechnikov.
and then
But
so
Martinook does them before every game.
so we have him playing on the right wing there in Boston with on the top line with Draisaitl. Detroit, you're up.
With the 35th pick, the Detroit Red Wings are thrilled that this guy lasted this long. From the Florida Panthers, left wing Jonathan Huberdeau. I was shocked that he lasted this long in the draft. Shocked enough that he's actually on my second line. Like there was no way that I could let him drop further than that. Like I said, there's certain team needs at this point. We get in round 6. You're not just taking the best player. You're looking at how can I fill my team out because every player is really, really good. So Jonathan Huberdeau, every type of situation guy, you're going to see a lot of my picks are kind of those guys. 36th overall, the Chicago Blackhawks.
So I like that Huberto pick. I think sort of underrated there too, especially playing in Florida. So that say he could play you in all situations, which is nice. With the 36th pick here, the Chicago Blackhawks, they went with defenseman from the Chicago Blackhawks, Seth Jones. Him and Hughes there together. It's still a younger pairing, but I think it's going to be a good tandem there. And then with the 37th overall pick, the Blackhawks went with another young defenseman from the Dallas Stars, went with Miro Heiskanen. Again, it's one thing that we don't necessarily have that veteran presence here, but we're getting these young guys out there, get them their minutes, fresh legs. They're able to play long minutes, all types, PK, power play, anything there. So Detroit, you're up.
Talking about veteran presence, the Detroit Red Wings select defenseman from the Dallas Stars, John Klingberg. John Klingberg is obviously plays with Miro Heiskanen. You're picking Heiskanen because he's younger. I'm picking Klingberg because he's older. I've got John Carlson, who's more of a veteran on the Red Wings. Shea Theodore, more of a younger guy. Good mix here. So I'm going with Klingberg just because he's a little bit older and he's still a very, very good player. Next up, we got the Boston Bruins.
The Boston Bruins here. We're going to round out that top line right now. We're going with a guy that can play both the left and right wing. We went with Kirill Kaprizov there from the Minnesota Wild. Obviously Calder Trophy winner, so that sort of gave it away. Good young player who will be able to play with these younger, like Draisaitl's pretty young, Svechnikov's he's still in there, and we'll be able to get that top line minutes and be able to produce even more. So with that, the Rangers, you're up.
The 40th overall pick, the New York Rangers select from the New York Rangers center Mika Zibanejad. I like that just to have another option behind Braden Point at center. So he's my second line center. Really nothing more to say about that. I think he's just going to be solid on that second line. He can score. I think he's kind of underrated. You don't hear about him a lot, but he's had some big games too, where it's like, wow, he had 5 goals the one game. Like I think it was last year or the year before. I mean, he can pop off if he really wants to. Toronto's on the clock with pick 41.
So Toronto, we're going with a guy that's not happy in his current situation. The Toronto Maple Leafs are taking from the Buffalo Sabres center Jack, currently from the Sabres still, I think, right?
Yeah.
Who knows where he's going to be at, but we wanted Jack Eichel. So he's going to be playing on that second line there behind Matthews. Like I said, in a situation where if we need to move guys around, he can play up that top line. But I like him in that second line spot there. So Montreal, you're going up now with 42 and 43.
With the 42nd pick, Lou might not like this one because he absolutely killed Jake Evans in the playoffs. But the Montreal Canadiens select from the Winnipeg Jets center Mark Scheifele. Scheifele is a player that I think has a lot of skill, has a high ceiling. He's good now, and I think he's just going to continue to get better. So to fill out another, like I said, Barkov is my top center on Montreal. Scheifele is my number 2. So I'm trying to get a little bit depth down the middle. And then what I'm going to do with the 43rd overall pick, I'm going to go defense again. I'm going defense heavy with the Montreal Canadiens. This is my 4th defenseman already. I'm going to select defenseman from the Arizona Coyotes, Jacob Chychrun. And this is a guy that, obviously we've talked about him with the whole Datsyuk cap contract trade during the draft. Dennis Cholowski is the guy that Detroit gets instead of Jacob Chikrin, and now he's with Seattle. He never made it with Detroit. And Jacob Chikrin is a stud with the Coyotes. With Ekman Larson gone, I think this guy is going to be one of the breakout players of the season in real life with the Coyotes, because he's the guy now. He's the guy, and he's going to be it for a while. So that's why I went with Jacob Chikrin. Moving on to number 44, the Toronto Maple Leafs.
And with him probably being the breakout guy for the Coyotes this year, or breakout in the NHL this year, and to think he's your fourth defenseman picked, like that's just saying something for Montreal there.
Got Weber, Yossi, Pietrangelo, Chikrin.
There you go.
Go with that. And Price and net.
Yeah. So that's you said building defense heavy on Montreal, which is that's scary. With the 44th pick, the Montreal Canadiens. Wow. Toronto Maple Leafs take winger Johnny Gaudreau from the Calgary Flames. So we have him on that second line. We're going to be putting him on the right wing right now, just because right wingers are a little hard to find. So I think he fits that role. He'll play with Eichel there, and the Rangers are up.
All right, with the 45th overall pick, the New York Rangers select from the Toronto Maple Leafs right wing Mitch Marner. I think this is a war of attrition between me and Bobo into seeing how long we could let Mitch Marner drop. Now, Mitch Marner is a very good hockey player in the regular season. He's yet to show what he can do in the playoffs. Same to be said about Austin Matthews, and he went very, very high in this draft in the first round. So we've talked about that before. The similarities between Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews and like a guy like Pavel Datsyuk. We talked about that a bunch of episodes ago, where Datsyuk didn't do anything in the playoffs for a while. His first like 5 seasons. And then finally, he figured it out. So Marner will figure it out eventually. Hopefully sooner rather than later for Leafs fans, because it's just panic city right now. Boston's on the clock.
So Boston is going to go with the defenseman here. We're going with the guy who in real life just signed a steal of a contract for himself. Kenny Holland, I don't know what he's thinking, but we're going with Mr. 8-year, 9.25 AAV himself, Darnell Nurse. Just a big defenseman. I feel like he plays that Boston style hockey. Really, like he can play physical. He can he'll still be able to help you out on the PK, power play, regular 5-on-5, obviously, and just I feel like he's a Boston style defenseman. With that said, Detroit, you're up.
I don't even really want to talk about it. I mean, good for Darnell Nurse, but oh my God, 9.25 is just, what are you doing? It's 40% of your cap in 3 players. Ask Toronto how that's going. Okay. With the 47th overall pick, the Detroit Red Wings select from the Carolina Hurricanes center Sebastian Aho. And this is a guy that, again, we're putting him down the middle. I have him playing with Jonathan Huberdeau currently, and I think he's another underrated player in the league. You don't hear about him a ton, and honestly, it's a great pick. I loved picking Aho in this position. Back-to-back picks, 48 and 49, the Chicago Blackhawks, and the choking to death, Bobo.
Yeah. I apologize for that. Just a little bit of the beers went down the wrong tube there. So 2 picks here for the Blackhawks. The first pick we're going to go with is we're going to round up that top line of McDavid, Pastrnak. So we're going to go with center left winger. He's going to play the wing, Gabriel Landeskog. Just because we also have Crosby on that second line already at center. So that's what we did with that pick. 49th pick, we're going to get a winger here for Crosby on that second line. We're going with one of his actual teammates here on the Pittsburgh Penguins, and he's been producing with them too. We want Jake Gensel there. Said he's played with Crosby. He's producing with Crosby. Let him play that second line. Let him produce. Let him get them points. Detroit, you're up.
50th overall pick in round 9. Detroit Red Wings select from the Vegas Golden Knights right winger Mark Stone. Mark Stone was a Selke finalist, minute 39 on the PK, 13th in forward points in the last 2 seasons. Those are really solid stats for a guy that, again, he plays everything, and even takeaways. I haven't got the stats on that, but that guy is like the new takeaway thief. It used to be Pav, I guess Mark Stone is the one that is just, he's a pocket picker. So defensive minded. He's a captain too, grit guy. He's going to play on the top line with McKinnon and Panarin. I mean, that I like that chemistry. So that's who we went with 50th overall. Boston Bruins on the clock with number 51.
Mark Stone's just a guy, like he's just seems like a good guy. Uh, I like that pick. Like I said, Selke finalist.
I'd have a beer with him.
Absolutely. Why not? Um, so I really like that pick there you took. The Boston Bruins here, we went with another forward here. We're going with right winger TJ Oshie. We're going to play him with Bergeron. I feel like they should have good chemistry there. Why? I don't know. It's just a gut feeling, and sometimes that's what you need to do is just trust the gut. So, with that being said, New York, you're up.
No comment. The New York Rangers with the 52nd overall pick select from the Columbus Blue Jackets defenseman Zach Werenski. He got a big payday as well. Zach Werenski is going to be the top guy there if he wasn't already, with Seth Jones being gone to Chicago. Again, another younger type guy to play on the Rangers D-core. I have Letang, Shabbat, and now Werenski. I thought, it might be easier to get some of the older veterans later on that can play on my third pair. So I thought this was a good spot to take Werenski. Toronto's on the clock with pick number 53.
So with pick 53, I know when I took this pick when we did it this offline, you just said ew. With that being said, the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to round out that second line there with Eichel and Gaudreau. They're going with left winger from the Boston Bruins, Taylor Hall. I know Hall sort of seemed like when he's played with these other teams, Jersey and Arizona, Edmonton, he sort of seemed like a cancer. But I feel like in Boston, he sort of fell in line, and that's the Taylor Hall that I'm looking for to go with this team. So I know it might not. He might. It's like, okay, well, he's playing with guys like with Bergeron and with Marchand, so like those veteran guys that sort of keep him in check. I know there's not necessarily guys like that right now on this roster, but that's the Taylor Hall that I'm looking to draft. With that being said, Montreal is up with the next two picks.
I have some comments. So Hall, I know I said, I was like,
go right ahead.
I think you're not looking for the Hall that's playing in Boston. I think you're looking for the Hall that won the Hart Trophy a few years ago. That's who you're looking for. And yeah, he's been on some teams where like there's this weird thing with Taylor Hall where like his teams always win the draft lottery. The Devils won it a few times. The Oilers, like, is just like unbelievable. Every single team he was on ended up like top of the draft. I don't think it's a bad pick. I was just joking around, but
you gotta bust my balls.
I always have to do that. With the 54th overall pick, rounding out round 9, Montreal Canadiens select from the Winnipeg Jets, Kyle Connor. Kyle Connor, again, he's a scorer. I think he's an underrated player. Again, you don't hear about a lot of these guys. You hear about the top, but he's, in my opinion, one of the best players with Winnipeg. Scheifele being one of them, Connor being the other, and then obviously Hellebuck. Kyle Connor is going to play on the top line with Barkov and Kucherov. I like that top line, definitely. I mean, because Barkov's a playmaker, Kucherov's a scorer, Connor's two-way. I mean, that's how I built a lot of these lines. And then back-to-back, the Montreal Canadiens to start off round 10 select from the Dallas Stars, center Tyler Seguin. Now, he was hurt all year. I think this is a great value pick for round 10, as I wrote on the side. He is a top guy. And you're talking about Hall. I mean, he was picked right after him in the actual draft years ago, 2010, I think. And Tyler Seguin's going to slot in. I'm putting him on the right wing, though, and I'm playing him with Mark Scheifele. So I think that's going to work out pretty good when you find out who their left winger is. And I'm not going to spoil that because I haven't picked him yet. Toronto's on the clock.
So with that Seguin pick, like I said, going back to the draft, he was like Seguin picked right after Hall. If you were to go, if I'm asking you, Buschy, if you were to go back to that draft, would you still take Taylor Hall number 1, or would you go with Tyler Seguin?
Seguin.
Yeah.
So not to say that Taylor Hall is not good, but it's like he's had his moments. I think what you've seen is this arc with Taylor Hall where it kind of went like this, and then he hit that Hart Trophy season, and then it went like this, and then now it's kind of on the uptick again with the Bruins, which I think it's going to stay like that because the Bruins are a good team. With Tyler Seguin, you kind of had this going on. They won the cup, and then he got traded to Dallas, and then it was,
yeah.
And then he was incredible. It was like, whoa, why did you trade him? I will always think that is the funniest thing watching Peter Chiarelli on that video. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's like the Tyler Seguin trade call where they like say, "Oh yeah," like they shred him. It's like Chiarelli, Cam Neely, the whole scouting staff, like, yeah, he's not a Boston guy. Like, we want to get Nathan Horton back in here. Like,
We want Louis
unbelievable.
Erickson. That's who
Yeah,
we
they
want. Yeah.
so bad. Toronto's on the clock with pick 56.
With pick 56, the Toronto Maple Leafs are adding a defenseman. This guy plays, I believe, on the top line right now in Philly. They went with defenseman Ivan Provorov. Yeah, New York, you're up.
I was gonna say I'm probably gonna speed it up a little because we're in round 10, but
yeah.
New York Rangers. Now this one I am gonna explain it a little bit. This is a guy that it shocked me stats wise to think that this guy, you said 18th in forward points in the past 2 seasons. It shocked me. I think it shocked Bobo as well. New York Rangers select from the Vancouver Canucks, JT Miller. Unbelievable. 18th in forward points the past 2 seasons. That's insane. I mean, I think he had like 98 points in like 120 games. That's amazing. You know, good for JT. So I'm going to take him because at this time, looking at the stats, he was the only one. Well, there's another guy too that I picked, but that was left in that upper top 20 in points. The people were getting taken that were in the 30s and 40s, and he was still sitting there. So I'm taking JT Miller. Boston's on the clock.
JT Miller is a guy. The guy's a Vancouver fan. He's found his role. He's able to interchangeable on that first 2 lines. So, so it's sort of surprised. Like it doesn't surprise me that he's been getting the points, but seeing, like you said, in the 18th overall, like 18th in the last 2 years, that's pretty solid there.
Just so you know, before we go here, the Rangers have their top 2 lines. So it's Marchand, Point, and Rantanen, and then JT Miller with Zibanejad and Marner. So just
can't go. That's pretty nice. Boston here, we're going with a defenseman. We're going with Ryan Ellis. He's played with Darnell. Like, so we have him on that second pair right now. Obviously we can interchange it right now, but they're guys that have played together on Team Canada in the past and have good chemistry. So that's why we went with Ellis. Detroit, you're up.
With the 59th overall pick, the Detroit Red Wings select from the Tampa Bay Lightning defenseman Mikhail Sergachev. Again, another young guy. I've got this kind of old guy, young guy thing going on. Carlson with Theodore, Klingberg with Sergachev. Sergachev is that like perfect, like in this league, a perfect second line guy. I think he has the potential to be number 1. And if Victor Hedman wasn't in Tampa Bay, I think he would be. So that's why I went with Sergachev. Chicago's on the clock, back to back.
Yeah, so back to back. Our 60th pick, who we took here is we took center Ryan O'Reilly. I think he's a great grit forward, a good guy that could play that third line center here well behind McDavid and Crosby. With the 61st pick, we went with defenseman Matt Dumba. Guy who's been playing pretty solid, at least in my opinion, the last couple of years in Minnesota there. Will fit it well. And yeah, Detroit, you're up.
All right, I'm going to round out my top 6 forwards with another Tampa Bay Lightning.
Of course.
Center right wing, Steven Stamkos. He's still here at 62. I mean, again, he's a goal scorer. He was very highly rated in the last 2 years, even though he was hurt. So I've got Stamkos playing with Aho and Huberdeau on the second line. I got Panarin, McKinnon, Stone on the top. Boston's on the clock, pick 63.
Yeah, Stamkos at 62. You can't necessarily go wrong there for a guy that was drafted first overall. Injuries have plagued him, but he could still put the puck in the net. At 63, the Boston Bruins, we take from the Vegas Golden Knights, Max Pacioretty.
It's been a second since he was in Montreal.
Yeah, so that rounds up our second line there. So our first line we got Kaprizov, Draisaitl, Svechnikov. Second line in Boston, we have Pacioretty, Bergeron, and Oshie. Rangers are up.
New York Rangers are just moving a player from the island over to the Big Apple. Center Matt Barzal.
Love that pick.
A young guy. I mean, the guy's quads are like as big as my freaking neck. Guy can move.
As big as your ego.
I remember me and Lou were chirping him during the World Juniors because he never passed the puck and he figured it out. So I'm picking Matt Barzal to be my third line center.
I love
Toronto's
that.
on the clock.
I love that Barzal pick. I've seen him, I saw him play in or was he playing yet? Yeah, in the Mem Cup
Yeah.
with Seattle there, and the guy's just a stud. He's been pretty solid there in New York, like with the Islanders. So great pick at 64. 65, I got chirped on this pick a bit. The Toronto Maple Leafs are taking defenseman Aaron Ekblad, injured past year, uh, but he's a first overall pick. He's a captain. He's a guy that can. He's gonna have a turnaround here in Toronto. Montreal has back-to-backs right now.
The only reason that I kind of was weird with the Ekblad pick was because a lot of the fantasy guides have him like top 3 for defenseman, and I don't get it because he doesn't really put up a ton of points. I know he was hurt, but at the same time, I was kind of a little shocked there. He's still very good, obviously very good defenseman. So yeah, I would grab him. Montreal with the 66th pick select from the Pittsburgh Penguins center Evgeny Malkin. Guy that kind of lost his game a little bit. I don't think putting him on my third line in Montreal is probably a pretty good idea. Playing with skilled players is where he's going to shine. And then back to back here. This one, I don't know if it's a risk. He's hurt all season again, kind of like Sagan. I'm going with right winger Vladimir Tarasenko. And like I said, I think it's good value in round 12. I mean, we're assuming that these guys are healthy, right? So Montreal took Sagan and Tarasenko. Again, value picks that fell a little bit because they were hurt, injury prone, but talent wise, probably should have gone higher than this. Toronto's on the clock.
Yeah, that's the big thing, right? We're assuming all these guys are healthy, even like Shea Weber and whatnot. So we're assuming everyone's healthy, everyone's good to go. Toronto here, we decided to go with the 68th pick from the Toronto Maple Leafs, center John Tavares. He's going to be playing that third line somewhere where in the next few years, it won't surprise me if that's where he's going to be in real life, just because he is poo.
He might
but
have one of the worst contracts in the league at this point.
yeah, and so
If you had to argue it.
we're playing on third line behind Matthews and Eichel. And with that being said, the Rangers are up on the clock.
With pick number 69, the New York Rangers select from the St. Louis Blues defenseman Torrey Krug. So rounding up my top 4, he's going to play with Zach Werenski. Krug has a lot of points, and I know he played with the Boston Bruins, where there was a lot of points to go around. But he's with St. Louis. I mean, they won the Cup a few years ago. They're no slouches either, and he's one of the top guys there. So taking him before the Bruins can snag him. Speaking of the Bruins, pick number 70 on the clock.
And the Bruins did go with a defenseman in this pick. We went with a more veteran guy. His heydays are behind his solid days are behind him. But he's a good veteran presence there. They went with defenseman Drew Doughty. Detroit, you're up.
The Detroit Red Wings select from the Calgary Flames left wing / right winger Matthew Tkachuk. You talk about grit. You talk about a guy that can score and get under people's skin. Matthew Tkachuk is it. I think he's going to slot in really well. He's on my third line. I put him on the right wing. Solid third line checking role guy. And in a league like this, where it's kind of, we're making it all up, you do want to find guys that can play that type of role. So that's where I'm going with Matthew Tkachuk and Chicago back-to-back picks.
Yeah. So with the 72nd pick, the Blackhawks take a right winger. We went with Brock Besser from Vancouver. I have Besser playing on that line with Gensel and Crosby. Besser's able to produce it with guys like Bo Horvat, Elias Pettersson, and whatnot. But I think if you put him with a guy who is like Crosby and Gensel, I think he'll be able to have that same produce, if not produce even higher. And with the 73rd pick, the Blackhawks go with defenseman Devin Taves from the Colorado Avalanche. Just trying to get some more, get another young defenseman for the Blackhawks there. And yeah, we're just going young on D. Detroit, you're up.
So with the 74th pick, the Detroit Red Wings select from the Washington Capitals center Evgeny Kuznetsov. I know I was just preaching about two-way play, grit, and all that, and Kuznetsov isn't that. He's all offense. I felt like I could make this pick because I have Sebastian Aho on my second line, a guy that maybe could play kind of second, third. I can switch Kuznetsov and Aho if I really wanted to. So that's why I went with Kuznetsov, a little more scoring for the Red Wings. Boston's on the clock with pick 75.
With pick 75, Boston Bruins, we went to Elias Pettersson from the Vancouver Canucks.
Homer!
Absolutely a homer. So we have him on that third line right now. Some of these lines could be interchangeable and whatnot, but he's still young, he's still able, still super young, tons of potential still. And if he doesn't break out with Vancouver, like I'm honestly gonna like shit myself. New York, you're up.
Okay, a lot of information there. With
Yeah,
the
a little too much.
76th pick, the New York Rangers select from the Chicago Blackhawks, left wing and right wing, Alex DeBrincat. Smaller guy. He played with Connor McDavid in juniors. He's been playing really, really well with the Chicago Blackhawks. He's a top guy. He's going to slot in on the third line. He's playing with Barzell currently. Toronto's on the clock.
Toronto is taking the Canuck killer, the guy that once he signed in Montreal, he was just their kryptonite. Tyler Toffoli was great on the trade there, and he's been just insane. So we have him playing on the third line with Tavares, and the Montreal Canadiens have back-to-back picks.
All right, so the Montreal Canadiens select with pick number 78. Left wing from the Ottawa Senators, Brady Tkachuk. So I know I was teasing this before. He's going to be on that second line on the left wing with Mark Scheifele and Tyler Seguin. So again, another grit guy, just like his brother, honestly. They're cut from the same cloth. I think maybe Brady's a little bit more chippy. They're both chippy, man. They're Keith Tkachuk's kids. Of course, they're going to be a little more skilled, though. Now, starting off round 14, we're going with more, again, two-way play. He's actually going to be our fourth line center, if you can believe this, from the Los Angeles Kings center, Anze Kopitar. This is where it gets interesting because you look at some of these players and you go, wait, Kopitar's on your fourth line? Yeah, there's only 6 teams. The teams are going to be very stacked. But now I want to build where who would be a good fourth liner on a team like this with all this talent? Anze Kopitar is probably the best one that you can think of. Toronto's on the clock with pick 80.
So that's a great value pick with Kopitar. Like I said, it's only 6 teams. So, of course, the guy that's playing regular second, third line is now obviously dropping down to your fourth in this league. So we haven't had a goalie picked in a long time. And I know Toronto, with our first goalie, we went with Darcy Kemper. So with this pick, we decided to get that 1B goalie with Robin Lehner from Vegas. Obviously, guy's been playing pretty solid there. And obviously with Vegas trading Fleury, the pipes are his. So we're going to go with the 1B, 1A, 1B, play the hot hand, and the Rangers are up.
Yeah, I'm sure Toronto fans will really like that. With pick 81, again,
so well.
Exactly what I just said with Anze Kopitar. Who can be that guy for the New York Rangers for a fourth line centerman? From the Philadelphia Flyers, centerman Sean Couturier. He was a Selke finalist a few times, face-offs, penalty kill. That's what I want on the fourth line. That's why I grabbed them for the Rangers. Boston's on the clock.
Boston, we're going on that third line here with Elias Pettersson. We're going with the Buschy. Just show the pick, yeah.
Buchnevich.
Yeah. I butcher
of the
names.
St. Louis Blues.
So yeah, he got a nice
he got traded.
Nice little pay there. So yeah, we're gonna play him with Pettersson there and see if we can get some nice little chemistry going. Detroit, you're up.
So with the 83rd pick, the Detroit organization, we couldn't pass this guy up. I know I'm trying to get some more defensive guys, but when I saw this guy sitting there, I had to take him. From the Toronto Maple Leafs, left wing, right wing, William Nylander. He's going to slot in on our third line with Kuznetsov and Tkachuk, or like I said, Aho can be there as well. On each line, I do have more of a defensive, responsible type guy, so I felt like I could take a little bit of a leap here and grab Nylander. He was Toronto's best forward in the playoffs by far, and it was one of those things where like, well, they should trade Nylander, and he said, no, I'm going to be your best guy. You can't trade him now, and if you do, I mean, I wouldn't. Moving on, Chicago, back-to-back picks to end round 14.
Back-to-back. So to end round 14, we're going to go with a goaltender here in Chicago just to get some solid backup on Philip Grubauer there. So the backup goalie we took Jordan Binnington there from St. Louis. going to play a solid backup role again. It's it can't go wrong that. The next pick, the 85th, we went with the right winger Zach Hyman there, Mister Get a Payday in Edmonton. Playing him third line, looking at Buschy actually almost did vomit when this pick was made, and it looks like he still is. I was choking earlier, now he's throwing up. Still can't get over that pick. Looking at other stuff like my lines up moving forward and picks that I still have. It's a guy that maybe I should have taken my time on it, but it's a rushed pick there and someone that may drop down in our lineup. So Detroit, you're up.
Ew. Okay.
That's all you have to say.
I think I've said all I've needed to say. I had to wash my mouth out with Budweiser. That's how I felt about that pick. The only pick you've made where I was like, ew, what are you doing? Okay. With the 86th overall pick, the Detroit Red Wings are going to go back to the defense, and they're going to take someone from their nemesis, the Colorado Avalanche, young defenseman Samuel Girard, who is just coming into his own, and you don't hear about him a lot because they have Cale Makar and Bowen Byram, but they also have Samuel Girard. And I think he's going to be a really good player to throw on my third pair, let him grow and just let him do his thing. Gives him a lot more room to play his game, and that's what's happening in Colorado right now with the two guys ahead of him. Even Devin Taves, right? And they lost Ryan Graves. Colorado had like the best defense in the league. They still do probably other than Tampa. Boston's on the clock with pick 87.
Yeah, no. When I picked Devin Taves earlier in the draft, that's who you thought I was taking. Was Girard there, just a young defenseman. But with Boston up here with the 87th pick, they're going with Patrick Laine, guy that, like I said at the beginning with his time in Columbus, he was sort of just he was getting scratched, right? Like, or he was just sitting on the bench, just like a pylon. In this fantasy world, fantasy draft, him, Pedersen, and Buchnevich, we're making it happen. These guys are gonna click, and they are gonna click. Otherwise, I'm probably getting fired as the GM there. So, that being said, the Rangers are up.
Okay, with the 88th overall pick, the New York Rangers select from the Edmonton Oilers defenseman Tyson Barrie. A lot of points. I didn't write down his stats there, but he was in the top 15 in defenseman scoring the past few seasons. Again, sheltered on the third line, power play type player. That's why I went with Tyson Barrie. Toronto Maple Leafs on the clock with pick number 89.
At 89, the Leafs are taking defenseman from the Vancouver Canucks, Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Right now, we have him slotted in on that third line there. I think it's a good value pick there for having him as our third line. He's going to be playing top two in that top four D pair in Vancouver's, but Montreal's up now with back-to-backs.
Lou's going to like this one too. And again, we're just assuming that they're healthy, and I know this guy isn't, but we're assuming he's healthy. We're going to take from the Montreal Canadiens defenseman Shea Weber. I'm shoring up my defense. He's my fifth guy, and let's just go right into pick number 91. I'll talk about both of them. With the 91st pick from the Buffalo Sabres, defenseman Rasmus Dahlin. Now, Shea Weber on the third line for these guys is going to be perfect. He's going to be the perfect defensive defenseman, just beating guys up in front of the net. Again, we're assuming he's healthy, right? So nothing more to say about Shea Weber. I think he's a great guy to even have in a locker room. And I think Montreal is going to be hurting without him next year, big time. Rasmus Dahlin is like a minus a million with Buffalo, but I think it's because he's with Buffalo. Number one pick, lot of offensive upside. That's why I picked him to play with Shea Weber. Now my defense is complete for the Canadians. I have Victor Hedman, Roman Josi, Alex Pietrangelo, Jacob Chychrun, Shea Weber, Rasmus Dahlin. Pretty damn stacked. That's why I went with back-to-back defensemen here. Toronto's on the clock.
So that defense is ridiculous for Montreal.
With Carey Price in net, remember.
Yeah,
that.
with Carey Price in net too. So at the 92nd pick, the Toronto Maple Leafs take grit and grind and guys that's in a lot of controversy right now. Evander Kane. He rounds out the third line there for the Leafs. You got Kane, Tavares, and Toffoli there. And then Hall, Eichel, Goudreau, and Ovechkin, Matthews, Kane. The Rangers are up.
With the 93rd pick, the New York Rangers select from the Boston Bruins defenseman Charlie McAvoy. Weird pick there because I was kind of wondering, should I pick him here? I mean, he gets points, but also like he's going to be the guy in Boston, right? So that's why I went with Charlie McAvoy. Boston is on the clock.
And Boston takes from the Montreal Canadiens defenseman Jeff Petrie. Uh, Rounds out the top six there in Boston. Still guys that we can interchange in there, but I feel like he'll be a good fit there, playing with Drew Doughty right now as well. So with that being said, the Red Wings are up.
So with the 95th overall pick, the Detroit Red Wings select from the Tampa Bay Lightning left winger Andre Palat. This one I actually have a lot of confidence in. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, he's not playing with with Kucherov and Point." It's like, yeah, but he's a defensive type player. He's a second line, third line guy. I'm playing him on my fourth line. He's going to play penalty kill. He's going to play grit minutes. That's why I filled out Andre Palat with this pick. Chicago's on the clock.
Yeah, so we got back to backs here. So the first pick we're taking is Andrei Burakovsky. He's going to round out our third line for Chicago there. So we got O'Reilly, Hyman, and Burakovsky there. And then with the 97th overall pick, first of the 17th round, we went with William Karlsson. So he's going to be on our fourth line. He's our fourth line center, and the Red Wings are up.
Okay, so the Detroit Red Wings are going to pick their fourth line center, Elias Lindholm from the Calgary Flames. Lindholm is more of in my opinion, more of a defensive guy that I can plug in on that fourth line. I think a lot of all three of the ones that I picked, Couturier, Lindholm, Kopitar, all fit the same mold. I mean, you can argue which one's the best, but I think they're all probably really good fourth liners in this league. Boston's on the clock with 99.
So 99, for the 99th pick, the Boston Bruins select from the Dallas Stars, Jamie Benn. I feel like he's such a Boston type player, just a big rugged power forward. So at 99, I don't think that was a bad pick at all. New York, you're up.
The Rangers pick number 100 in round 17. Was still on the board. I did need a third line left winger, so I went with from the Winnipeg Jets, Nikolai Ehlers. Goal scorer, again, smaller guy. He's a little bit of a water bug. He's going to be playing with Barzal and DeBrincat, so a little bit of a smaller line, but I'm looking for some speed there. Toronto's on the clock with pick 101.
The water bugs, eh? So the 101st pick, the Leafs, we took defenseman Alec Martinez. That rounds up the sixth there for the Leafs. So Fox, Hamilton, Provorov, Ekblad, Ekman, Larson, Martinez. And the Canadians are up with back-to-back picks.
Okay, with 102, the Montreal Canadiens select from the Nashville Predators left winger Philip Forsberg. Again, another skilled guy that dropped really, really far in this draft. So Forsberg is going to be playing with Malkin and Tarasenko on the third line, which again, more of a scoring line on that one. I feel like I've been building the Montreal Canadiens to have a insane defense and goaltending core, and then just all offense up front. But that hold that thought, because with this pick, this is another one I feel like I have to probably explain a little bit. With the 103rd pick, we're going to pick Ryan Strome. Strome is another guy that was really high up in points and has had a few good seasons. And again, throwing him on the fourth line on the right wing, I think he would fit in really well right there. So Toronto's on the clock with 104.
Yeah, 104, the Leafs. We took Anthony Mantha from the Washington Capitals. I feel like during that trade, when he got traded from Detroit to Washington, he sort of not had like a resurgence or anything in Washington, but he's been playing solid there, and he's playing fourth line here, power forward, like a power role. So fourth line, I don't see that as a bad pick for the Leafs, and the Rangers are up on the clock.
This is another pick that would probably surprise people, but again, 17th in forward points in the past two seasons. New York Rangers select from the St. Louis Blues, like the third time, left wing, right wing, David Perron. I couldn't believe that he had that many points. I mean, he definitely flying under the radar there. I had to pick him. The Rangers have a few of those guys where, like Perron, Miller, there's another guy I'm going to pick, that another one that you wouldn't think scores like that, but he's going to play on my fourth line with Couturier. Boston's on the clock.
Yeah, so David Perron, he's flying under the radar. You can't see him just because of that tinted visor he always wears. With that being said, the Boston Bruins, we're taking a guy that can play the center or the left wing here. We went with Thomas Hurdle from the San Jose Sharks, guy that he can play different roles there for you. So we have him on the third line there with Jamie Benn. I feel like that those two together would be it's a nice 1-2 punch. And with that being said, the Wings are up on the clock.
With pick 107, the Detroit Red Wings select from the Winnipeg Jets Blake Wheeler, rounding out my fourth line. Lindholm, Palat, and Blake Wheeler. Probably changing Blake Wheeler into more of a defensive-minded guy. He's the captain of the Jets. I mean, I'm sure he'd be a team guy and be willing to do that. Chicago's on the clock back to back.
So back to back, the 108th pick, we went with another younger defenseman. We went with Mackenzie Weegar, just young defenseman. Hopefully, so that's the six we went with. Yeah, Hughes, Jones, Heiskanen, Dumba, Taves, and Weegar. Got a couple others down the pipe. Down that we could always sub in.
Younger decor.
It is, yeah, very young, very young. And then the next pick, the 109th pick, we picked right winger from the Seattle Kraken, Jordan Eberle. So we have him on the fourth line right wing with William Karlsson there in the middle. Detroit, you're up.
Going through now, we are picking an extra line of forwards, defense, and a third goalie. So we have basically 5 forward lines, 4 defense pairs, and a third goalie. With these, the way that I tried to do it is to just pick the best player available no matter what their role was. So again, another guy that was just sitting there with 110, Detroit Red Wings select from the Washington Capitals center Nicholas Backstrom. Guy that's feeding over the puck, and he's a playmaking guy. I can put him in there if I really need to. I can replace Kuznetsov on that third line if I need to, if I want a little more playmaking, if there's too much just shooting there. Boston's on the clock with 111.
111. We're filling out this grit fourth line here. We're going with a guy that may have a little bit of controversy to him. We're going with Tommy Wilson. Need I say more?
Yeah, that's pretty much it, eh?
New York, you're up.
Okay, this is the guy I was talking about. 98 points in his last 111 games. Ready for this one with the 112th pick, the New York Rangers select from the Pittsburgh Penguins, Brian Rust. Are you kidding me? 90. He's almost a point per game.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So, I'll throw him on the fourth line. I mean, I would have never picked him if I didn't see that stat. Toronto's on the clock.
Toronto is taking center here. We're going to go with Bo Horvat from the Canucks. On that fourth line there, the center, Manta's on the wing, and we got someone else down the line to pick soon. Montreal with back-to-backs.
Montreal's going to pick their backup goalie here with 114. We're going to select from, I think, the New York Islanders, Semyon Varlamov, to back up Carey Price. And I think that's a pretty good pick. Varlamov could have been maybe even a starter for, maybe your Leafs. And then we're going to go with, and technically, I don't have my fourth line left winger yet, but another guy that too good to pass up in this late in the draft, from the Philadelphia Flyers, Claude Giroux. Again, he's going to be on that fifth line. I mean, he could jump up and play on the left side if he needed to. It's just talent. I wanted to grab him, and I did. Toronto's on the clock.
Well, exactly. Really, that's the one thing you're saying here in these late rounds is you want to get guys that almost not best available, but get guys that would be best fit for your team there. Who you think, not necessarily based on a certain position. With the 116th pick, we're with the Leafs are rounding out that fourth line. They're going with from the Florida Panthers, Anthony Duclair. Not the biggest guy, but he still has some grit to him, and he's able to put that puck in and play all sorts of roles. That seems like the one thing I keep saying over and over again, but it's true. So the Rangers are going up here with the 117.
With the 117th pick, the New York Rangers select from the Vegas Golden Knights, Jonathan Marchessault. Goal scorer, energy guy. Boston's on the clock.
Boston is taking a veteran center here. He can play the wing as well. They're taking from Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm so used to San Jose. Joe Pavelski. He's on that fifth line, but yeah, that's what I will say with that. Detroit, you're up.
This one's interesting. 68 assists and 77 points in the last 125 games for a defenseman. It lasted this long in the draft. This is the one that I was actually most excited for because I was waiting for him, just dropping. From the Jets, Rangers.
Jets? I want to say Jets.
I don't know. Neil Pionk. A lot of points. Obviously, a playmaking defenseman. He's going to play with Samuel Girard, younger defense core that can move. Chicago back to back.
So yeah, going back to back here, we're gonna finish off that fourth line here with the left winger. We went really young here. We went very international here. We went with Timmy Stützle from the Ottawa Senators. I have a feeling he's gonna have a good breakout year this year. I don't know, just a gut feeling there. And then with the 121st pick, we went with Matthias Ekholm there. So he's technically our seventh defenseman on that fourth defensive line there. So Detroit, you're up.
I was thrilled to grab this guy this late in the draft. He was ranked lower for some reason, but he just eats minutes from the Carolina Hurricanes defenseman Jacob Slavin. And I think he only had 2 penalty minutes all season, and it was a like puck over the glass penalty, so he can play those top minutes, be physical, and not take penalties. I'll grab him for my 7th D for sure. Boston's on the clock.
No, why wouldn't you grab that for a 7th D, right? Boston with the 123rd pick. We went with the guy that could play either wing, going with Jakub Voracek there. So he's on that fifth line with Pavelski. Can insert him up and down the lineup. A guy that's able to produce there. New York is up.
Hasn't been producing lately because I think in that last 2-year span he's only got like 26 goals or something. So you better hope he plays well. But it's probably a good risk because he's not on your
a fifth.
actual...
Yeah, it's a fifth exactly. Line, right? So
exactly.
Risk, low risk, high reward. Rangers are up.
Speaking of that, I'm gonna select from the Edmonton Oilers Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. He has a lot of power penalty kill time. Surprisingly, I didn't realize he was a penalty killer. But I was grabbing him just because, again, he can play up top as well. Toronto's on the clock.
Toronto is taking a right winger here for that fifth line. Those guys that are on the bubble. Went with Brendan Gallagher. That's all we'll say on that. Montreal's up.
I was gonna grab Brendan Gallagher at this point in the draft too for Montreal because he'd be an awesome fourth liner in this league. So what I went with instead. I went with Braden Shen from the Blues. And again, that's another guy that's just going to be hanging out on that last line. And then I went with my left winger here. He's technically a centerman, but I'm going to throw him on the left side. I went with Brock Nelson from the Islanders. Another guy that I had him in fantasy, and he was like my third centerman. He put up a lot of points, but he's also more of that defensive-minded two-way guy. Toronto's on the clock.
Yeah, I said Nelson on the one page he wasn't even rated, right? So he's a guy that, yeah, like you said, he'll get you those points. He's not a sexy name, but he's a great pick, especially where you took him here at 127. At 128, the Leafs, we took Trocheck there to play the center role on that fifth line on those guys that are on the bubble, and the Rangers are up.
All right, well, the New York Rangers are going to select a guy that was out all year that people didn't know if he was going to play ever again, but apparently he's doing well now.
You thought he was dead.
I didn't know what was going on with him, but so Jonathan Toews, like I said, he's the last forward that I picked for the Rangers and can play anywhere as well. Boston's on the clock.
Boston is bringing back Mr. Hot Dogs himself, the biggest Jets fan in the world. We're bringing back Phil the Thrill.
Phil's a Jets fan.
The Jets fan. So he's on that fifth line, the guys that are these are the last forward taken for the Bruins. So guy that could, depending on injuries and whatnot, you would be able to fill in there. And I also read a rumor that he is looking to get traded. They may be trading him to the Coyotes. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. Interesting to see what happens with Phil. The Wings, you're up on the clock.
All right, we're getting really boring here. We're going to draft from the Calgary Flames, Sean Monahan. Again, filling out my bottom 5 and a stat, and it might have been changed now, but from his draft year for a long time, he was number 1. He was over Nathan McKinnon. So obviously very successful for that draft. And even if he's number 2 to Nathan McKinnon, good for Sean Monahan. Chicago back-to-back.
Yeah, back-to-back here for the Blackhawks, and we're taking 2 forwards. The first one we're taking is center, Dylan Larkin from the Red Wings. Uh, I know, like Buschy was saying earlier, it's the blasphemy with a Flurry in a Wings jersey. Now it's the blasphemy with Larkin in a Blackhawks jersey. And then the second pick that we're taking there at 133rd, he's a center, but he can play the wing as well. We're taking from the Dallas Stars, Rupe Hintz, uh, guy that in fantasy for me in the one league I played, he was I took him in an expansion draft since me and the other guy came into this keeper league, and he was exposed. He was one of my top picks. He was able to do pretty solid there for me. So, Detroit, you're up.
This is a very interesting stat because this guy, fifth in 5v5, so even strength goals in the last 2 seasons. And he's only behind Ovechkin, Matthews, McDavid, and Pasternak. This is going to blow your mind, but it's actually from the Detroit Red Wings, Jakub Vrana, which is very weird to look at and go, wow, like even strength this guy produces, right? And gave him up for Mantha and a first round pick, and that's why Capitals fans weren't happy. But I will definitely stash him on my bottom line there. Boston's up.
So, boss, all the other two teams that had, like the Leafs, they have their two goalies. The Blackhawks, they have their two goalies. The Bruins, they have Hellebuck, who's going to play majority of the year. We had to get a backup. A guy that is going to be taking the reins solid this year for Vancouver after Braden Holtby got bought out and then picked up by Dallas. We're going to Thatcher Demko. I know Yaroslav Halak is now the backup in Vancouver, but or is signed in Vancouver, but he'll be the backup. Demko's taking the role. He'll be able to back up though Hellebuck here nicely. The Rangers are up.
So the Rangers are going to take a swing here at 136 because it's something where I kind of go, is it because he's with the Sharks or they're just bad? But I'm going to go with Brent Burns because of how dominant he used to be. And let's see if he can do it again. Toronto's up.
We went with the Calder Trophy finalist here. And I think I took this guy basically because around a lot of the hype around here, partially because of Buschy himself. We're going to go with
1,300 views.
Yeah, 1,300 views, right? Alex Nedeljkovic from the Detroit Red Wings, formerly of the Carolina Hurricanes. Buschy, have you got that name down yet?
Nedeljkovic.
There you go. You're up here with back-to-back picks.
You know,
with Montreal.
138. The Montreal Canadiens are going to select a young defenseman that's up and coming that, in my opinion, skates like Cale Makar from the Anaheim Ducks. Defenseman Jamie Drysdale. Nothing more to say there, honestly. If you go watch him play, he looks like Cale Makar. And I'm going to actually take my last defenseman from the Detroit Red Wings, Filip Hronek. Had a kind of an off season. I mean, he only had, I think, 2 empty net goals, but he led the Red Wings in points. So as a right-hand shot, can play on that PK or the power play if I need him to. Toronto's on the clock.
Toronto is taking their last forward here. They're going to go with the former first overall pick, Alexis Lafreniere. I know he sort of had like a blech year with the Rangers, but you know what? It's a big jump going from junior to the NHL. So he's playing in another big hockey market. So, but again, fifth, he's on that fifth line. That guy that's making the bubble there. Rangers are up.
So the Rangers are going to take their backup to Andrei Vasilevsky. They're going to take from the Philadelphia Flyers, Katahat. Again, had a bad season. I mean, he wasn't good, but he showed flashes of brilliance his first few years. So I think it's just fair to put him behind a guy like Vasilevsky. So Boston's up.
Boston is taking a guy that he was pretty one of the big names at trade deadline. He got traded to Detroit and to Tampa. Is that how it worked? Detroit brokered the deal.
Something like that, yeah.
Anyways, we're taking Savard there. He's from the Montreal Canadiens. Now won the Cup in Tampa, signed in Montreal. Now he's going to Boston. I think as a late pick, as a seventh defenseman, we could fit him anywhere in the Boston lineup. It seems like a Boston style guy. Detroit's up.
All right. Detroit's going to select from the St. Louis Blues defenseman Colton Parayko. Again, he dropped down 2. Stats aren't really, the best with him, but bigger dude. Could he play on my third pair? Yeah. I mean, I could put him in for Girard or Pionk easily. Chicago back-to-back picks. We're almost done, boys. 2 more rounds.
2 more rounds and to end the
End of the crying dog.
Yeah, enter the crying dog.
It's all okay. We're almost done. 2 more rounds, dude.
Well, I think he's crying because of the pick that I originally was looking at taking here. With Tony DeAngelo, but with the 144th pick, the last defenseman here, the eighth defenseman, the Blackhawks take from the San Jose Sharks, Erik Karlsson. Is it the same thing like you said with Brent Burns
Mhm.
playing in San Jose and you're just poo? But we've seen him in
Erik
have some
Karlsson's ankles are sandpaper though, so that's the problem. Is he's I think he might be
well, I
toast.
have a bad ankle as well, so it's okay. So that's what we're taking. And then we're going to take our third string goalie here for the Blackhawks. We went with that from the Calgary Flames, Jacob Markstrom there. Detroit, you're up.
Detroit's going to take their backup goalie. We're going to go with Freddie Anderson, who I think had just a bad rap in Toronto. I mean, just get out of there, dude. Go to Carolina, be the top guy. Show them that they're all insane over there. He got hurt, and they all just wrote him off. Now they have Jack Campbell and Peter Mrazek. Good luck with that. Boston.
Yeah, that was that's. So I think getting out of Toronto is the best thing for Freddie Anderson there. Uh, who are Boston? We're gonna go with our third string goalie here. We only got two more picks for Boston, so we went with our third string goalie. We went with Igor from the Rangers there. Uh,
Shesterkin.
yeah, exactly. I wasn't even gonna try. What? Rangers are up.
The Rangers
Jesus.
select from the Minnesota Wild Jared Spurgeon. If anybody is still watching it at this point, like just deal with the dog, honestly. He's been a dickhead. We've been doing this for like 3 hours. Toronto's up.
Yeah, so suck it up, Hursty. Um, with with the with Toronto's 149th the 149th pick, the Toronto Maple Leafs take from the Seattle Kraken defenseman Mark Giordano. Uh, late round, I think it's a great value. Uh, Montreal has back to backs.
Montreal is going to take their last forward, and I waffled on this one, and I saw the guy's name, and oh my god, he's still there. Anthony Cirelli from Tampa Bay. I mean, talk
Another
about
Tampa player.
another guy that basically should be a Selke finalist, and yeah, so we took them, and then back to back. I think this is the last pick. So the last goalie that we took was I think it's Ilya Samsonov.
Yeah,
Yeah, from
from
Washington.
yeah.
Toronto is up their last pick.
So the last pick, Toronto's bringing them home. They're bringing back PK. Not bringing back. They're bringing home PK Subban.
I laughed so hard at this pick.
You did. It's you know what for this pick. Honestly, I just went for a name. I'm not gonna lie. Rangers with your last pick.
So the Rangers took their third goalie, went with Nashville Predators UC Saros, who I mean, hey, that's a good one for even a backup. So I'm happy to get him for the third guy. Boston's up.
Boston's last pick, they had to take a defenseman, so we went with the big man, the very tall Tyler Myers. Obviously, he knows the Dano Chara, but he has the height there, so he could be like mini Chara. Detroit's last pick.
Went with a third goalie, a young guy, and I don't even think he's in the franchise hockey manager that we're going to sim. Not that it's going to matter, but I went with Florida Panthers Spencer Knight. Just a young guy that he started playing a little bit, and that's why Dreger got let go to Seattle, and they have Bobrovsky and Knight now. Knight's going to be the guy who's a first-round pick. Mr. Irrelevant, who is it?
Mr. Irrelevant is from the dumpster fire that is the Buffalo Sabres. You can't look, well, you can, but for plus minus, I didn't really look at it. I just look at this as a way for him to get out of the situation, which is going to happen to anyone because it's original six. Sam Reinhart.
I say, spit it out.
yeah. So we got all the draft is there. Mr. Irrelevant, Sam Reinhart. That's it.
Yeah. Geez.
Are you going to show the lines or no?
I think we should go through the lines. I mean, we can. You want to go through them real quick? Because we can. Let's do that. We got
just
a few
quickly.
Here. Let's go.
Just quickly.
Okay. So let's go back to this screen. Let's start with the Blackhawks. Okay. Let's zoom in here a bit.
So this is the team that had the first overall pick. Obviously, we want to pick David Pastrnak, Landeskog. That second line I like a lot. What are your thoughts? I know we said the young D. Anything on your thoughts there?
Yeah, young D. I'd be maybe a little bit iffy with the goalies, but Grubauer was a Vezina finalist, but he was behind a very good team in Colorado. Obviously, this is going to be a good team too. I like that you paired Gensel and Crosby together because in real life they do play together. Yeah, Landeskog and David Pastrnak. You can't go wrong there.
Just don't look at the third line right winger and then take that out of the.
Yeah, young D core. I would say I don't like the fourth line. I would want more defensive guys there, and that's the way that I built mine. You want with just kind of pure talent. I mean, Eberle, Stützle, and Karlsson aren't really going to be your guys. I look at that team and I go, okay, your penalty killers are going to be like Hyman, O'Reilly, and like that's it. Like, I don't know who else.
Hmm.
That's the only thing that I
Yeah,
look at
yeah.
there. But okay, Red Wings. I mean, let's look at these ones real quick here. So I wish my dog would just shut the fuck up. Honestly, he's such a dick right now. Ovi, that's enough. Okay. What are we thinking here? Now, the way that I built it was, okay, really good goalie. And then you can see the top two pairs on the D. Like I said, Carlson and Klingberg, more veteran. Theodore Sergachev, younger. Gerard
Yep.
and Pionk, younger. Slavin Pareko, older. So if you want to switch one of them, go
You could,
for it.
yeah, switch that in there.
And then the fourth line, that's the kind of what I was talking about, is those are more fourth line guys. Technically, like the fifth line has more talent than the fourth.
Yeah, like I said, Palat, well, isn't he like a top line guy? But he's in Tampa. He's playing with those guys. So take him away from that situation, and
right,
you're it's a solid built down all the way around.
I mean, you can chirp it a little bit, but I mean, I like the two-way forwards. That's kind of what I like with Stone, Kachuk, Aho, Huberto, Palat, Lindholm.
Yeah, where you went more the two-way, where I went
they can
more,
all score. That's what I kind of was.
I went more firepower, balls to the walls.
Right.
With Chicago, with this team, I feel like I built it like a Boston-ish team here.
You did. You really did.
So I think this is probably my favorite team I drafted. I mean, okay, I like it.
Yeah, your top line is scoring. Your second line, I love the Bergeron pick. Line A, definitely maybe a stretch, but I mean, for Boston, let's do it. Buchnevich is underrated. Wilson, yeah. Wilson, Jamie Benn, that's a good, solid line on the back there. I mean, you picked some skill at the back end. I'd probably even put Pavelski in the lineup there somewhere, maybe for like Line A or Hurdle.
Yeah,
because he's an all-around guy.
It's a guy that you can plug into those situations.
Yeah, like I said, again, I love Cale Makar. Do I love the defense? I'd probably put Savard in over Doughty. I love David Savard. Nurse.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was still available that late. So
yeah. Morgan Riley would have to kind of just be that, like, hey, I'm going to join the rush type guy. Maybe like if you just talk about pairing, maybe you flip, like you put like Makar with Ellis, Nurse with Riley. You put more of a defensive guy with the forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'd want a defensive guy with Morgan Riley, is what I'm saying. But other than that, like Petrie's a good player. I really liked him. Doughty's not even really that old. He's only like 33. Did you know that?
Yeah, he's.
I thought he was like 39. He's been around forever. And then Hellebuck and Demko. That's a solid goaltending pair there too. Yeah. Let's look at the Rangers. There's the lines here. Like I said,
this is the least sexy team here.
It is, but statistically, that's what I was going for. So Point, I know he's not a top line guy, but it's because he's in Tampa. I think he is a top line guy. Any other team in the league, I'm putting him on the top. I'd say Miller, Perron, and Rust is because of the stats. And stats don't lie, man. That's why I took them. It doesn't look sexy. Like you said, it doesn't look sexy, but I mean, they're going to be damn good.
But the work speaks for itself.
And then you can take some risks on the back end with Vasilevsky and net. Like I said, Letang, Shabbat, Werenski. Like we got some young guys. Barry and Krug, to me, are the same player. They really are, in my opinion. Even McAvoy a little bit too. Spurgeon might be one that's more of the underrated ones there. He's the captain of Minnesota. It's so weird.
It'll be interesting to see how some of these guys, like Miller,
but I mean,
Perron,
look at
and Rust, how they work.
Down the middle, fucking solid. Marner, even like he could be top line somewhere too. He's just because of the whole playoff thing, right? Maple Leafs. Let's zoom in on these guys.
God, that top line is gonna have so many shots.
Top line may be the best line that we have for like top. Kane, Matthews, Ovechkin. I don't know who the hell is gonna be passing the puck here. Maybe Kane, but Hall, Eichel, Goudreau. That's like the
it's like the wish.com
version. The rebirth line. Like, you have to have a better season. All three of them, right?
Yeah.
Evander Kane, I mean, he's probably going to bet on his team. Tavares is just meh. Toffoli, I like.
Is it Tavares as a third line? That's fine with me.
Yeah, I'd put Gallagher
in this league.
I'd put Gallagher over Mantha and Duclair easily for your fourth line, 100%. I think that's a pretty good solid lineup there. Defense, Yeah, Fox won the Norris. Had a lot of points. Hamilton, offensive guy. Provorov, Ekblad. Yeah, you got, and then you got your veterans in your bottom four there, right? Which
Yeah,
Martinez, Giordano, Ekman Larson. I'll say Subban won a Norris Trophy. He just hasn't been what he used to be. What really scares me is the
is
goaltending,
the
and that's a
goaltending.
Toronto thing,
Yes,
right? Kemper and Leonard.
yes,
Who is it? 1A, 1B. That's how you did it. Because hey, there was going to be two teams that ended up having not a like starting goalie, and it just happened to be two of your teams.
yeah,
Like you got Hellebuck for one of them, but like I got Fleury, Vasilevsky, and Price.
yeah.
Like
And I
those are
went
the guys, right?
Grubauer,
Grubauer, I
Hellebuck,
think you can say he's probably a top guy. This is the only team I think that didn't really have like, oh, he's the guy,
a
right?
number one, a
Right.
bona fide number one.
Okay. I want you to break down that defense. That's the best D in that's in the draft for sure.
It is, and that's the thing. Like when we did this live, and even revealing it again now, it's fuck. Like
It's kind of nice. I mean,
that's where you don't need to have necessarily the top forwards when
right.
you have a solid defenseman. You have Carey Price in net.
Because even
You
looking at
got
those forwards, I mean, it's still like, oh my god. Now,
still you got
the
Kucherov, Barkov. Like
but the way that I supplemented that is because Sagan and Tarasenko were hurt and they dropped in the draft. They're better
yes,
than where they got drafted, right? So
yeah,
if you look at Kucherov, Sagan, Tarasenko as your right wingers, and then even down the
nothing wrong with
middle,
that.
I think I like this is probably the favorite team that I drafted was probably Montreal. That's what I
And
would
your
say.
favorite one's Montreal. Mine favorite's Boston. So we got that rivalry now, and
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we can definitely. I think we're gonna do maybe a little YouTube video about like best of the rest because I know there's probably like, wait a minute, what, so and
where's
so
Joe
didn't get picked.
Thornton?
Yeah, like because there are some guys that didn't get picked that even shocked me and probably Bobo when we kind of go through the list and you're like, wait, what? Like I definitely would have picked that guy. Like I'll say one guy right now, okay, and then we'll go through the list. Josh Morrissey, Winnipeg Jets. Like
Probably should have
he's
got taken.
100%. He should have got taken for sure. And there's some other guys too where you'll raise your eyebrows and go, really? Like, but then you got to look at it and go, who would you replace? Like
Yeah,
we took an extra line for each
an extra,
position.
yeah, for everywhere.
So that even those guys were like kind of, if you look at the fifth lines, Nugent Hopkins, Taves, Marchessault, Monahan, Backstrom, Verana, Sorelli, Giroux, Shen, they wouldn't have got picked if we were just doing four lines.
Hintz, Larkin, Reinhardt, Pavelski, Voracek, Kessel,
That could
Trocheck,
be an awesome
Lafreniere,
team on
Gallagher.
itself. That could be an awesome team by itself. So that's the interesting, the intriguing part of this original six draft, and the spark that we wanted to do is see how the hell good are these teams, right? I'm going to attempt to put it in a simulator and see how crazy the stats are. So what do you think? Do you think it's going to be just a score fest? Games are going to be 9-7, or do you look at it and go, no, you have the best players in the league. It's just going to be way better hockey, but it's still going to be 4-2 and 5-3 and like 1-0 even because you have the best players in the world
I
playing
think you're
each
going to see
other.
higher scoring. Uh, in some, it's hard to, yeah, you
You
say
have
it's
the
the
best
best though.
defenseman in the
You get the
league
best
too.
defensemen and goalies. So it's, I
Think
think
about
the
this.
scoring will be up a little bit, but
I think it's going to be the same. That's just because here's the thing. Look at the minor leagues. You go in the AHL. It's not like the scores are any different. It's just the level of play isn't as good,
yeah,
right? Same thing with like going down to where like hell we would play. We'd have games that were like 4-2. It's because we are not good. You know what I mean? So that's where I kind of think maybe the scores aren't going to be as crazy as you think, just because the skill level is just way higher. I don't think the scores would be any different. That's my
it's good.
guess.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be just a tit hair higher, not that much. Like
Yeah.
instead of like a 4-2, it might be like a 5-2 or
You would have to look at the stats, and we can we'll be able to look at the stats of like average goals for, average goals against, average, things like that. We'll be able to look at it on this simulator and compare it to real life and
the
go,
actual life. Yeah,
yeah, and like who would be the highest goal scorer? Who would be the biggest disappointment, right? Like who was a defensive liability that we thought wouldn't be, right? So
you watch like Burns is going to turn around and have like a fucking all-star year, and
it might, you know what I mean? put them with skilled guys, and here you go. So that was a lot of fun to do. I know this is like the longest pod that we've done so far, but it was a blast to do. I'm sure that we'll find a way to do something like this again. I even
An
have
expansion draft,
I
1970s expansion.
I kind of was thinking of maybe even doing redrafts for like the 90s, right? Like, and getting a pool of players that played from
Ooh.
like, you know, you pull up like the like we've done the NHL 99 rosters, just like put all those players in a pool and then pick
And
teams
then
just like we did. Be kind of interesting.
that
See
could be
how good
fun.
you can make it. The same thing we just did. That's something I'd probably would do.
It's something we can do, whether it's on a pod or we just drop it as a YouTube video. It's something we
Oh yeah.
definitely
Oh, it'll be
uh
like this. It'll be big because we're gonna do a full team, right?
well, absolutely, yeah, we're gonna do, yeah. So we did 6 teams, and how long has it been? It's been couple hours to draft them alone, and then to
Mm-hmm.
film it, it's
But how
another.
fun was it though?
It's so
Tons
we
of
did
fun.
it. It didn't seem like that long. It didn't seem as long as it did.
Yeah, it was a good time. So, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, check out our YouTube page. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, and the website's www.healthyscratch.ca, Bushy Bobo Podcast. We've done 15 of these bad boys now.
15, yeah.
Yeah,
Just
going
appreciate
strong
anyone who's listening,
and
and
yeah. Going forward, it's going to be the fun stuff because there's not a whole lot to do in the off season. So we'll have some quirky, weird, dumb shit that we like to do. So
yeah, just all the fun dumb stuff. Whether it's drafts, like I'd put a video on YouTube of just rankings of center ice logos and shit. Like
yeah, might as
it's
well.
it's the off season. Unless there's something like it's big and we're like, oh,
Yeah.
let's drop something on this, which we probably would through YouTube. But yeah, healthyscratch.ca is the best way to see the latest
Yeah.
content.
Yeah. So until next time, I'm Bushy.
I'm the Bobo.
See you next time.
Take it easy.